Hey everybody, I'm going to take you through this lab number 3. I'm reading off the procedure here, but first thing I want to do is set up my ring stand with my ceramic triangle and my crucible. I take a piece of paper towel and I take it and scrub out any of the loose stuff that's inside the crucible to try and knock away any of that. And then what I want to do is take that and place it on the balance, but before I do that, make sure that I zero out the balance. And then I measure the mass of the empty crucible and record it in my data table. The next thing you'll see here is that I'm going to zero out the balance, and then I'm going to put some of this blue substance into the crucible, but I make sure to grab a little metal spatula to help transfer from the bottle to the crucible. I pour some out. Now the procedure says I want approximately 3 grams, but if you go past 3 grams, that's okay. In fact, it's okay if you go past 3 grams because you're going to put the exact amount that you read on the balance right into your data table. And in this first trial, it wasn't exactly 3 grams, it's a little bit more than 3 grams, but I'm going to put the exact amount I see. And these balances go 2 past the decimal, so all my masses will go 2 digits past the decimal. Now let's take a look at what the solid looks like before I start heating it. You'll see that it's got this really vibrant blue color. Now as I start heating it up, I'm going to hit the gas here and I'm going to light up my Bunsen burner and I'm going to let this burn for a number of minutes. And as it burns, the water is going to be evaporating off and it's going to just join the atmosphere. But you'll see that the color begins to change. Here's what it looks like halfway through. You see the blue in the middle, but the edges have kind of started to evaporate and it turns into a white solid. Now I'm about done and I grab and turn off the heat so that I don't burn myself, and I transfer it over to the balance. You can see that on the balance I have the wire gauze. The wire gauze is there to insulate the balance from the hot crucible. Here's what it looks like after it's all been heated. No color left. So I'm back and I'm jotting down and I put my numbers in my data table and I take this off as quickly as I can, because even though the gauze is there, it still could leave a little bit of heat damage if I leave it there too long. It's just a slight insulator. It doesn't do the job completely. So I jot down my final number and then I put it into the data table. That takes care of trial 1. Let's take a look at the numbers for all 3 trials. Notice that the empty crucible has a different starting mass each time. One of the most common mistakes I see is students just think that the mass is the same for all 3 trials. But you always got to take the mass of the empty crucible to begin with. Also notice that I have a different starting amount of hydrated material each time. And that's okay because the amount of water that gets driven off should be proportional to the starting amount. So if you have more starting hydrated material, you should have a larger mass at the end and more water driven off. If you have a smaller amount, you should have a lesser mass at the end and less water driven off. So those numbers are pretty solid. Next thing you want to do is take my numbers and figure out how much water was driven off and continue on with the calculations. But this is where I leave you. You're going to take it from here. Make sure you do the calculations. You can use my data table, take a screenshot of the screen and use it as your own. But you need to add the mass of the water into the data table potentially. But go ahead and do the rest of the calculations and the conclusion statements and hand this in on the day it's due. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this lab. Thanks for watching.